Ho, 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 and a bottle of rum. Time for audio chit chat. Maybe get some. I don't know. I'm not a rapper, but you try, right? Well, today's an interesting topic. We're going to talk about compressors. Ooh, everybody loves them. Um, so why not just talk about it in an easy way for you to think about it and actually get started on your path to compression? Well, first off, I hear a lot of things that compression makes it louder. Now, compression is actually made to make things lower. It was used in early broadcasts to uh, level off the peaks so there wasn't this big, gaps in between people talking over the radio or music was, a little bit too dynamic. And so what it was used for is to bring the overall signal down to stop peaks. Now, the twist is once you do that, you can bring the channel of whatever you're compressing up because you've now chopped out some of the dynamics. So obviously you can make it louder, but it's made to make things lower. So get that out of your head. So the easiest way to think about this is three major points, and every single compressor works like this. There might be different kinds of compressors, there might be different features on a compressor, there might be different tones. Some are better for some things and some are better for other things. So as you can see, the compression could start to spiral out of control because there's just so many compressors to use. But they all work in the same principle. Okay, let's think about it for a second, right? You set a threshold, and that's the ceiling of where the compressor is going to start to react. Not flat Earth, but that's the set where you're going to hit it. Then you have an attack and a release. So these three things should be your major point of entry, okay? Because if you don't get this right, every other production technique that you might see on the internet is maybe not going to work because you're still understanding how to use it. Just think about it as it opens and it closes. It opens and it closes. And the threshold starts that reaction. So, what I want you to do is practice, right? You want to make it open to let the sound in and close to take the sound out. A lot of producers don't get this part right, especially young ones, because I listen to a lot of demos, and you get this artifact that the release time isn't fast enough or the attack time is just way too fast and it clamps down and the compressor doesn't know what to do first. So what you should do and what I'm going to give you is source sounds, right? And you're going to just learn how to get it to work with the threshold, and then you're going to learn how to open and close it. Now, they come with ratios. So if you think about a ratio is, let's say 2-to-1. So anything 2 dBs after that threshold, it will lower 1 by 1 dB. Simple, but not so simple. This is where it starts to get a little complicated, but you really should learn how to hear it. And just using threshold, attack and release will get you moving and it'll get you practicing on this basic way of using a compressor. So I'm going to give you snare loops, drum loops, bass sounds, pretty much a whole bunch of sources at different tempos. And you can start practicing just open and closing the compressor. And if you can get this right and you can start hearing it, then the rest will just come. It's a simple concept of using it, but it's not. It could destroy any mix. It could make things sound choppy. It could make things sound thin. It could make things sound low and just not really pleasing. So once you get the opening and the closing, what you're going to also find is that there's a gain at the end. Because since you're lowering the sound by X amount, you can then take the gain of the plugin and match it to where it was. So once you start getting it open and closed, then you can see, oh, it's reduced by 1 dB, for example, and then you just level match it to go up by the 1 dB that you took out. And then essentially it'll balance itself within your track. Obviously, you can take the gain and crank it up a bit if you want and get more tone out of the compressor by driving the input in there. But every compressor has a threshold. Some you can create, and some are just inside the plugin because they're actually taken from compressors, analog compressors that don't have that have a set threshold. Some are faster than others. Some are slower than others. Some are good for clean sound. Some you just want to dirty on up. So once you learn how to get it going, you can then experience different ways and how to use it. You can then go on YouTube and say, okay, what's my next compression technique that I have to learn? I can make it move on time and on beat, which is the simplest way to use this baby. And you can go from there. And the whole idea is thinking, hey, it's just there to level out the peaks from the highest point to the lowest point, and you get a compressed file. So there you go. It's pretty simple. I hope you guys will like the samples and find uses for them because they're license free. So you can do whatever you want with them. But I highly suggest put them in your DAW, one sound at a time. Make your compressor go open and close. Try another one, and then another one, and get an idea of what these A sound like, and B, how they react to the signal that you're sending into it. Like a snare, like the bass sound, like a whole drum mix, like a whole, bus of other instruments. So I'm going to give you a wide range of stuff in different tempos. Some of these things are going to be harder to compress than others. It's just, don't worry about it. Just learn how to listen for it. Some, compressors have meters, so you can see it going back and forth, back and forth. So that would be a good compressor to start because you can actually visualize it. You can record your compression and then look at the uncompressed signal and look at what you compressed, and you can actually see what it's actually doing visually, which is important. I never had that when I was coming up back in the 80s. It was you either hear it or you fucking don't. So I hope this little, pep talk on how to get started with a compressor is something that you might like. I think finding good source sounds for this demonstration is important because, I'm going to give you loads of different stuff. It's not a sample pack to use this, that, and that, the other. I'm just going to basically give you sounds to practice. And like I said, if you want to use them in something, be my guest. All right, boys and girls. I hope you can get started on your wonderful path using compression. Just to let you know, I'm not a huge fan of it, but I use it every session. You're going to find that if you use too much of it, it's not good either because then everything starts to get really, thin and small. And you don't want that. You just want to use it to actually compress something for a reason. Not everything needs to be compressed. Sorry, not everything needs to be compressed. That's Twice I said that. So use it wisely, use it sparingly at first. Don't put it on your mix bus if you're in this stage, because that's going to screw up more things than you can possibly imagine. If you can't get a compressor to open and close the way you want it, a mix bus is pretty complicated. There's lots of stuff going on, and that compressor is going to react to so many little things going on. It just takes a little time in order to hear what's going on. I am going to give you full tracks, like full drum track, full guitar, whatever is in there. I might not have guitars, but so you can actually practice that, because a full drum loop is on a drum bus that has a lot of transients, has a lot of peaks, it has a lot of lows, depending on what the drummer, or if it's electronic, it'll probably be evened out a little bit better. These are not going to be complex files. It's just for you to learn how to set the threshold, open and close, and if it gets a little lower, the meter will tell you how many decibels it's taking out, and you can just even it out with that. Try to make it as even as possible. Don't try to overdo it and give yourself more juice by gaining it up. You're just going to hear that and think, wow, it's so great. Meanwhile, everything is just all over the shop. And, you have to use compressing thinking of what else is going on in the track. It's not just, I'm going to throw it in there, and because you can. And you can. But I think learning this first step is going to set you on a good path on how to use compression in its most basic form. So I hope the samples do you well. I hope this little peppy talk on compression 0000.0 and to get you started in, get you started really. All right, guys, girls, everybody, sayonara. And I hope to see you again soon.